You know, if you're trying to track economic progress in Iraq, it's tough. The headlines, always politics, always security.
Always. It's easy to miss what's happening underneath.
Exactly. But beneath that surface, for those looking for, well, real opportunity, there's this huge foundational economic shift going on, a real reinvention, pushing Iraq back towards, global integration and stability.
Yeah.
So we've looked at 8 recent pretty major developments, and these aren't just headlines. They're strategic moves from like central bank reports, industrial licenses, diplomatic updates.
That's source material.
Right. And our mission for you, the listener, is basically to cut through all that noise. We want to give you the specific context you need to really grasp the structural changes happening right now.
And that context is absolutely crucial because these aren't just, random news bits. They look like coordinated moves. Finance, industry, diplomacy, they all seem connected.
Connected how?
Well, they paint a picture of a government actively trying to rebuild global confidence. And, critically, laying down tangible, non-oil foundations for a stronger, more connected economy. It's about building trust.
Okay, let's unpack that. Where do we start? Finance, I guess? That seems foundational.
It has to be. Modernizing finance, building that regional trust.
Right. So our first source point, this strategic partnership between the Central Bank of Iraq, the CBI, and the National Bank of Kuwait, NBK Kuwait, specifically their Bahrain branch, interestingly, signed in Baghdad.
Yeah, and what's really key here isn't just who signed, it's how specific the agreement is. I mean, sure, there's joint training, but the guts of it, it's data sharing protocols.
Okay.
And, maybe most importantly, streamlining financial transfers and electronic payment systems. This tackles a huge structural barrier for Iraqi trade.
How so?
Well, think about this. So what here? The CBI is directly targeting trade friction. By partnering with a major Gulf bank like NBK, they're building a kind of financial corridor.
Bypassing older systems.
Exactly. Bypassing reliance on, let's say, cumbersome correspondent banking, especially for certain currency pairs. It clearly signals a push to align with Gulf banking standards.
And that matters because?
Because it fundamentally boosts cross-border liquidity. It makes Iraq almost instantly a more attractive place for foreign investment in areas like fintech or regional remittance systems. They're basically plugging into the Gulf's financial ecosystem.
Okay, integrating regionally. And that focus on digital finance, that's also happening internally, right? Which brings us to that National Payments Council meeting. Governor Al-Awlaq was pushing hard.
He was. Yeah, the meeting really called for accelerating the whole digital payments transformation. It's a major internal priority.
What are the main goals there?
Well, the immediate goal is just getting e-payment tools out there everywhere. Ministries, schools, the private sector, which is huge. But, true modernization, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So there's this parallel focus on cybersecurity and public awareness. They get that financial literacy, and protecting people from digital fraud has to keep pace with the tech rollout.
And this is where you start tackling bigger issues like transparency, maybe corruption.
Absolutely. A move towards a cashless economy, even partially. It just makes tracking money easier. Tax collection becomes more efficient. Opportunities for illicit stuff, they shrink.
So that foundational change, that's where the real long-term growth potential is. Payment gateways, e-commerce.
Precisely. They're building the transparent plumbing needed for a modern economy to actually work. And that's the kind of structural reform that builds real investor confidence, not just hype.
Okay, speaking of confidence, let's pivot a bit. We need that investment reality check. Because if financial modernization is the foundation, we still have to deal with the noise, specifically that recurring speculation about a quick revaluation, the RV of the Iraqi dinar.
Ugh, yes. The RV speculation. It pops up every political cycle, like clockwork.
And every time.
Every single time, experts, and crucially the central bank itself, push back. Hard, a sudden massive RV. It's pure speculation, maybe even a delusion. It's not a serious economic strategy.
Why not? What's the risk?
It would instantly kill Iraq's non-oil export competitiveness, just devastate it. And it would wreck any macroeconomic balance they've managed to build. The CBI denies these plans repeatedly. They insist, correctly, that any sustainable currency appreciation comes from real productivity, from diversifying the economy, not from flipping a switch.
So the guidance for someone actually looking to invest, not just gamble.
Look, the guidance is clear. View the dinar as what it is. A high-risk, potentially high-reward emerging market currency. It will move with actual economic growth, actual fundamentals. It's not a lottery ticket.
Okay.
The real, tangible opportunities, the ones the CBI itself is trying to foster, are infrastructure, energy, digital finance, actual projects.
So bottom line from the CBI is ignore the RV chatter, watch the actual economic activity like factory output.
Exactly. Watch the real economy. And, the numbers there are starting to show some movement.
Okay, let's talk about that tangible non-oil growth then. Industrial momentum. Point 4. This big surge in industrial licenses. The Directorate of Industrial Development issued 180 preliminary licenses for new projects just in September, plus 97 land allocations for factory sites.
Yeah, 180 licenses in 1 month. That's a striking number, a serious bureaucratic push, like you said.
But is it just paper? Or are these actual factories getting built?
That's the key question, isn't it? Are these translating into shovels in the ground, actual production? Or is it still, bureaucratic momentum? Either way, the government's intent seems clear.
And the target sectors?
Pretty specific.
Yeah.
Food processing, metal fabrication, textiles, construction materials, basic industries. Baghdad's leading, 41 licenses there.
But Basra and Nineveh aren't far behind.
So what's the broader impact they're hoping for? Contextually, it's critical for two main reasons, I think. First, strengthen the private sector, the non-state part of the economy. Reduce dependency on government jobs and oil.
Right.
Second, build capacity for import substitution. Make more basic goods in Iraq instead of importing them. And then eventually, maybe export potential down the line. This kind of industrial base is what attracts those European and Gulf joint ventures we were talking about earlier.
And speaking of attracting high-level partners, nothing really screams long-term confidence in a capital city like big international real estate developers moving in. Point 5, UAE-based Damac launching Damac Hills Baghdad. That's luxury real estate.
That is profoundly significant.
Yeah.
It's not just another housing project. It signals something deeper.
Like what?
It signals that major international developers, like Damac, believe they've secured the necessary legal guarantees. Things like land ownership rights, and crucially reliable ways to actually get their profits out of the country. Repatriation.
That's always been a sticking point.
A huge one. So when a developer like Damac commits this kind of capital, it tells the market they see Baghdad not just as, say, stable enough, but as an emerging high-value market, a place that can absorb premium, international standard projects. It genuinely changes the perceived risk profile of investing right in the capital.
That kind of structural validation, that belief from outside, it's a perfect bridge to our last section, diplomatic signals and global validation. So if Gulf money is flowing into real estate,
European confidence seems to be flowing back into diplomacy.
Right, let's start with the Swiss. Reopening their embassy in Baghdad after
30 years. 30 years.
Yeah.
That's a massive diplomatic endorsement. Think about it. For decades, the absence of major European missions, it was like a constant psychological drag on serious investment.
So the reopening signals.
Renewed confidence, plain and simple. Confidence in Iraq's political direction, its security trajectory, at least enough to put diplomats back on the ground full-time.
And beyond the symbolism, you mentioned practical gains. Something about a double taxation agreement.
The DTA, the Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement, that's crucial. It makes profit repatriation and overall investment much more attractive for Swiss companies, and likely other European firms will see it as a positive signal too.
Okay.
Plus, they're planning to issue visas directly in Baghdad. That removes a huge hassle, a real friction point for Iraqi business people needing to travel to Europe.
But hang on. Given the history, unpredictable permits, shifting legal ground, how much risk does one DTA really take off the table for, say, a typically cautious Swiss investor?
That's a fair point. It mitigates the financial risk of double taxation, sure, but operational risk, political risk, maybe not so much directly.
So it's a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. It's a powerful step, yes,
Yeah.
but it needs to be paired with visible progress on the ground, like actually streamlining those regulatory hurdles we talked about. This embassy reopening, it probably appeals most strongly right now to investors in those specialized, high-trust Swiss sectors.
Yeah.
Finance, precision engineering, maybe water infrastructure.
Got it. And Switzerland isn't alone in Europe. Point 7. The Iraq-Italy Business Council, the IIBC, launched officially in Baghdad, high-level officials from both sides present.
Right. Italy is clearly positioning itself as a key partner, specifically for industrial and infrastructure development. The IIBC basically formalizes cooperation.
In what areas?
Innovation, investment, and maybe most importantly, knowledge exchange,
Mm-hmm.
technology transfer. This opens the door for Italian capital, sure, but also for Italian tech, Italian standards, think quality control in sectors like industry, energy, infrastructure. It provides a potential template for how Iraq can leverage European expertise to modernize its own output.
Okay, so we have Gulf finance, European diplomacy, and tech transfer. What about the U.S.? That dynamic is always critical. Point 8, the appointment of U.S. Special Envoy Mark Savaya.
And his slogan,
Yeah.
pretty direct, I want to make Iraq great again.
Yeah, that's a very assertive signal from the U.S. side. His mission, at least as outlined in the sources we saw, is described as highly results-driven and complex.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, the stated goals include stabilizing Iraq, empowering specific reformist factions within the government, actively countering Iran-backed militias, and also supporting Kurdish autonomy and their economic development. It's a wide mandate.
Okay, let's stay objective here. What are the potential financial implications?
Objectively, this kind of high-profile push could encourage renewed U.S. investment interest, particularly in reconstruction, maybe energy, leveraging that strong diplomatic backing.
With that.
This stronger, more, let's say, interventionist U.S. stance also significantly ramps up geopolitical tensions. Savaya's mission seems like a direct bet on certain factions within Iraq, demanding quick accountability. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy.
High reward if it were?
High reward if it pushes to reforms, yes.
Right.
But high risk because it could easily provoke political backlash from Iran-aligned groups, potentially adding serious short-term volatility.
So it's that classic balancing act, again, internal reform tied directly to external geopolitical pressure. High stakes.
Precisely. It's a long game they seem to be playing, but one that definitely carries serious short-term risks for anyone operating there right now.
Okay. So let's try to pull all these threads together then. We've covered 8 kind of foundational shifts: regional banking ties, luxury real estate, European diplomats returning after decades. What's the synthesized story here?
I think the story is really shifting from just post-conflict recovery to something more like deliberate structural reinvention.
Reinvention. How so?
Well, the narrative feels like it's becoming one of tangible, maybe earned trust. You take all these developments together, they seem disparate, right? A CBI deal with Kuwait, a fancy housing project, the Swiss embassy reopening.
Yeah, they don't seem immediately connected.
But collectively, they underscore this growing, tangible belief from the outside world. Gulf neighbors, European powers, major developers in Iraq's long-term economic potential. Potential that's finally starting to look like it could materialize beyond just oil revenue. It feels more real now.
Right. Okay, so here's the final thought we want to leave you, the listener, with today. Think about this. You've got this influx of European and Gulf capital coming in. You've got this internal push for a more transparent, cashless system. How quickly will the speed of Iraq's digital transformation start to outpace the geopolitical turbulence that, let's be honest, still exists? And looking ahead 5 years, what specific sector outside of energy and basic construction should you be watching most closely for genuinely disruptive growth? Where might that Italian technology transfer or that Swiss engineering expertise make the biggest game-changing difference? Something to think about.